In a move that's sending shockwaves through global politics, US President Donald Trump has threatened to withdraw $20 billion in assistance from Argentina, a country led by his political ally, President Javier Milei. The warning came just weeks before Argentina's crucial midterm elections, a vote that will decide the fate of Milei's free market reforms and his country's political direction. Trump's comments didn't just rattle Buenos Aires. They've raised questions about US influence in Latin America, the future of democracy in Argentina, and the deepening divide between populist leaders and traditional Western diplomacy. The meeting took place at the White House Cabinet Room, where Trump hosted Milei for a working lunch. The two leaders, both known for their populist right-wing philosophies, exchanged compliments and reaffirmed what they called a shared mission: make Argentina great again. Referring to Milei as MAGA all the way, Trump praised Argentina's radical free market reforms and called Milei a man of vision. But behind the smiles, there was a warning. Trump told reporters, if he loses, we are not going to be generous with Argentina. We're not going to let someone get into office and squander American taxpayer money. That remark, referencing Milei's far-left opponents in Argentina, was extraordinary, breaking decades of US diplomatic tradition that avoids weighing in on foreign elections. Earlier this year, the Trump administration approved a $20 billion assistance package for Argentina, a move critics called a political bailout. Officially, it wasn't a bailout, but rather an economic support program, meant to stabilize Argentina's collapsing currency and support Milei's reform agenda. The package came after a crisis triggered by Milei's poor showing in local elections, where his party suffered a landslide defeat in Buenos Aires Province, Argentina's largest and wealthiest region. Investors panicked, the Argentine peso plunged, bond prices crashed, and the country's dollar reserves began hemorrhaging. Facing a full-blown currency meltdown, Milei turned to Trump. In a private meeting in New York on September 23rd, during the UN General Assembly, the two struck a deal. Within days, US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent announced that Washington would provide Argentina a $20 billion exchange facility, allowing Buenos Aires to swap pesos for dollars. Markets rebounded immediately, the Argentine peso stabilized, and investor confidence returned, at least for a while. But the timing of this bailout has ignited a political firestorm in Washington. With the US government partially shut down, mass layoffs underway, and domestic spending under scrutiny, many questioned why American taxpayers were funding a country with a long record of economic failure. Argentina is the IMF's largest debtor, owing over $74 billion from multiple bailout packages, including $40 billion from 2018 and $20 billion more in April 2025. Senator Elizabeth Warren led the charge against the deal, calling it Argentina first, not America first. She introduced a bill to block the funds, arguing Trump was rewarding political loyalty rather than sound economics. The bill failed in the Republican-controlled Senate, but it underscored the growing partisan divide over US foreign aid policy. For Milei, the US support couldn't have come at a more critical moment. Argentina's inflation remains above 120%, unemployment is rising, and nearly 40% of its 46 million citizens live below the poverty line. His government has already missed several International Monetary Fund reserve targets, raising doubts about its financial sustainability. Economists warn that even with Trump's backing, Argentina faces a potential currency devaluation after the October 26 midterms, a move that could reignite hyperinflation and crush Milei's approval ratings. The US should be concerned that Argentina had to return for $20 billion so soon after getting $14 billion upfront from the IMF, said Brad Setzer, a senior fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations. Trump's open intervention in Argentina's domestic politics is reshaping regional dynamics. Neighboring countries like Brazil, Chile, and Uruguay, which maintain delicate trade and security relations with both Washington and Buenos Aires, now face a stark choice: align with Trump's new brand of transactional diplomacy or distance themselves from it. In Brazil, President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, a leftist leader, condemned the move, calling it a dangerous precedent for Latin American sovereignty. Meanwhile, Peru and Paraguay, which depend on US aid and trade, have remained cautiously neutral. Analysts say Trump's stance could polarize the continent further, deepening ideological divides between right-wing populists and socialist movements. If Milei loses the midterms and the US follows through on its threat to pull assistance, Argentina could face another financial collapse with ripple effects across Latin America's $5.5 trillion economy. Beyond economics, the two leaders also discussed Project Stargate, a joint AI infrastructure initiative backed by OpenAI, Oracle, and SoftBank to build massive data centers in Latin America. Trump has personally championed the plan, which could make Argentina the first Latin American hub for next-generation artificial intelligence. But that too may now depend on Milei's political survival. As Cristina Fernández de Kirchner, the powerful Peronist opposition leader, wrote on social media, "Trump to Milei, our agreements depend on who wins the election. Argentines, you know what to do." Her message was clear. Argentina's sovereignty and perhaps its democracy are on the ballot. The Trump-Milei alliance was once hailed as a symbol of freedom and prosperity. Now, it stands as a test case for a new kind of diplomacy, one where ideology outweighs institutions and economic aid comes with electoral strings attached. As Argentina prepares to vote, one question looms large. Will US power help stabilize Latin America's fragile economies? Or will it spark a new era of political dependency and unrest? Only time and the markets will tell.